Hey everybody, we've been waiting on parts for our air compressor, but we've got to keep moving forward. Here we go. Yeah, that is right. Our air compressor has been down for, I don't know, quite a while now, actually. It's been 3 to 4 weeks, intermittent, and then it finally just failed. Let me show you what's going on. Believe here our start capacitor has failed once again. This, of course, is not the original one. This is at least the second one that's been put on. Check the motor out. Motor is fine. The little throw-out switch for the 2 windings is working. It doesn't even spin up without anything attached to it. We know this is good. So we're figuring it's the capacitor. We already tested that, and it looks to be dead. So we ordered a new one. It was supposed to be here today. At 9 o'clock this morning, it was still nowhere near Minnesota. So we went ahead and ordered a new one, but it was supposed to be here today. It's not. 9 o'clock this morning, it was nowhere near Minnesota, so I guess we'll have to wait for it to show up along with a bunch of other stuff I've been waiting for. So we can't get to priming anything yet, but in the meantime, we do have all of our goodies for the Fiesta here. Our front and rear bumper covers, our old Fender and our new Fender in the box down there. So I'm going to work on trying to get those pieces prepped up for paint. You might ask why I've still got that old Fender. Well, I'm going to go to the paint store and I want to take a look and see how much the factory color is different from what's on the car now with, 10 years of fade and life on it. And my aim is to not do a lot of blending because I really don't want to for a $700 car. So my plan is to see the difference between the factory color and what it's faded down to now, and if there is a noticeable difference, excuse me, if there's a noticeable difference, I will go ahead and just get the faded true color now, what's on the Fender, and if we're very close, I'll probably just get the factory color so it's easier to mix and go on with life. But for now, let's go ahead and get those 2 red things prepped up. We're going to get those scuffed up with some 80 grit in the DA and ready for primer. So when we do get our parts in, we can go ahead and just have this giant priming party for all of our stuff stacking up. And while I'm getting set up, if you have not hit that little subscribe button right there on your screen, why don't you go ahead and do that? Like the video, comment, and we'll keep moving forward. Alrighty, we'll see how this goes. This sander, the discs keep flying off of it. So that's what I get for the clearance special from the home store. May have to upgrade. Now that popped off just after a couple of minutes of sanding, so that's kind of disappointing. But I'm gonna go through do that for the back bumper here, the front bumper, and also gonna take, that's actually 40 grit here. I'm actually gonna take it and run it along some of these contours. My goal is not to take off all the paint and get back down to the plastic, or the bare plastic, just enough to scuff up the plastic, the paint, so that the primer will adhere to it. That way I don't have to go through and put down the adhesion promoter and flex additives again. That's plastic. So we're just roughing up the plastic a bit, the paint on it anyways, so we can go ahead and get a good coat of primer on there and be able to lay some paint down. I did I did check around. Some folks say add it, what's it gonna hurt for the flex additive. Some folks say you don't need to, so we'll give it a whirl here, and if it looks like it's gonna be a crap job without any of that flex additive, we'll throw it in there and reshoot it. Alrighty, we've gone ahead and gotten this rear bumper kind of prepped with our first round here. We've ended up taking a smaller piece of, where'd it go? Oh, here we go, a smaller piece of 80 grit to get in with our hands where we couldn't really get in with the sander. So all these little nooks and crannies in here, around here. Then you'll see we've got our dirty spot we've sanded. Then I hit this area just a little bit with some spray way to try and clean up and see if I've missed any areas. Those will be evident by glossy still compared to the kind of the rough and dulled areas where I have sanded. And I'll go ahead and do that to this whole bumper here. But that's going to give me an indication if there's any areas I have to go back over and touch up. Like in here, there's a little bit to go ahead and sand on, so I'll go ahead and just knock in there a little bit, and probably just going to leave this at the 80 because I want to make sure that when I prime this, there's enough of a bite for this thing and the primer to grab onto in the plastic. And you know what, if I've got to do a little extra sanding, that's going to be preferable versus going down to the 120 or the 200 on this and possibly being too smooth and the primer pulls off of the plastic. So yeah, you don't want to sit there another 20 minutes of me sanding on the front bumper, so I'm just going to speed through that and we'll move up to our front fender. Alrighty, here is our new front fender. Such a cute little guy. And I'm not even going to bother with the DA on this because there's not really any flat spots except right there. So all I'm going to do is take my block with my 80 on there and just scuff this up. Actually, I might even run it, might even try 120, but we'll see what the 80 does for us to begin with. Just so I can try and get this scuffed up. Again, we're not going down to the bare metal. I just want to get a scuff on this primer that it came with from the factory. And again, give that primer something to bite to because I'm going to put a couple coats of primer on here, make sure I don't have any imperfections from the stamping. So we'll go ahead and do a loose guide coat on here once it's primed and see where we're at. But this shouldn't need a whole lot of prep work with this panel, hopefully. Almost need a smaller rack for this thing. It's such a small, dainty little panel. Now I've got a look on the original panel. Down from about here below was some not undercoating, but just sort of an extra goopy sludge on the bottom of the rocker here. So maybe I'm going to take some of that Eastwood rubberized encapsulator and throw on here after I prime it. Just to try and match what's on the car now. I'll take a look. It's just down here in the last inch or inch and a half, so maybe it won't really be needed or noticeable, but we'll see. You guys get the idea where I'm going with this, just to go ahead and get this scuffed up. So pretty much now we're waiting for my parts to come in for the air compressor before we can move forward. So we'll just we'll pause here and we'll come back whenever I've got a working air compressor. I did take a look at just flat out replacing it and found a really nice one from a vendor online, and high CFM, 30 gallons, would work up here in the garage and down in the shop. And it was $500-600, which I could stomach for a good product. But then the shipping came in at about $300, and I said, nope, I'm just gonna spend 20 bucks on the capacitor and see if I can just get by with that, with what I've got. So we'll see. We've got the 20-gallon compressor, a 20-gallon expansion tank. Just a matter of that compressor keeping up with the volume of the sprayer. And it worked pretty well this summer for priming everything. So I guess we'll shoot a test panel when it comes time to color and see how that works. Anyways, I'll quit rambling and come back when the air compressor is working. Alrighty, we're ready to go. If you can tell, I've got a nice fresh new mask to wear here. So that must mean our compressor is fixed. We've got the compressor fixed, got a whole new motor for it. Set me back about $300, but I kind of needed it and wasn't about to spend a couple grand on something we can't use up here in the garage since we don't have 220. But that being said, the compressor works. We've got it. We do have a 30 amp outlet up here for it, which is awesome because all of our other 20s are just taken up with lights, computers, music, all sorts of fun party stuff, like my workbench. Yay! Light, TV, 1000-watt amp, DJ speakers back there. Because that's what you need in your garage, right? You need music to work with. Yeah, I also got my nice little Elgin headphones, which are awesome too. But back to the topic at hand, we're ready to paint. We've got our parts here for the Fiesta. They are all prepped and ready to go. I've hit them with some spray away. This is our new fender, our front bumper, and I had some stuff sitting around here for the Challenger, so I'm going to go ahead and get those touched up as well, and just make a day out of it. So I'm going to finish prepping here. Got it about 75 degrees in here in the garage. We're going to open up the door here. We've got our exhaust fans assembly that goes down here in the bottom section. We'll get those plumbed in and get our floor wet down and get our primer mixed up. So I'm going to finish getting that stuff prepped and we'll get shooting. Well, heater's on because once you start pulling the air out of here, it cools off pretty quick, unfortunately. But we've got our primer mixed up. We've got our 2K DTM, so I can apply this right to the metal with our additive, which activator is just about gone. So hopefully you'll be able to finish this here. Did go ahead and upgrade from the basic Harbor Freight paint thing here. So now I've got a little easier time, better mixing. I got a bunch of cups, we got some better filters, and there's actually a strainer in here as well. So we have two forms of straining crap out of our paint. Like I said, the air compressor is fixed. This is actually, I did some looking to see about just flat out swapping it out. And while it's from 1982, the CFM on it is higher than anything else I can buy today that still runs on a 110. This is about 7.5, 8 CFM at 90 pounds, and I'm only running half that, if that, out of the gun. So this 20-gallon plus the 20-gallon expansion tank I've got up in the ceiling, I've got 40 gallons, and it seems to do pretty good. You know, granted, we'll get to the shop, permanently get a bigger 60 or 80-gallon 220 unit, and we'll go with that. But we do have, like I said, some Challenger parts here. Door we've been working on, the trunk. But for now, we've got our Fiesta parts too. We've gone through, cleaned all these up. The new fender, that's been scuffed up. Everything has been cleaned. The floor is pretty well damp. And hey, at least I got a chance to clean all the winter sludge and dirt out of the garage and boot both of our cars out for the day. So let's just fill up our gun and get to it. Alrighty, well, first coat of primer's on, and overall I think it came out pretty well. We've got, you know, bumpers, they're plastic, they're never gonna be perfect. They weren't perfect to begin with, but to replace them is more than I paid for the car. So the ones here from Pull Apart, cleaned up, we got scuffed, we shot them, and of course we're gonna put on more primer, probably another coat of primer, and then the sealer, at least on the metal. But I think overall it looks pretty good. We'll see once we get paint and clear on there. Challenger parts, those came out just like I expected. Gotta flip this over and shoot the top of the trunk and then the passenger door as well. Gotta shoot that. But otherwise, our new fender here came out well. Yeah, here's my furnace again. I'll go ahead and shoot another coat of primer on here. Just one little dust flake. There's actually no real trash in here, so I'm happy about that. And part of it comes from wetting down the floor, getting your surface prepped you're working over, so we're not kicking up any dust. That's a big help, especially in our makeshift paint booth here. And I'm sure I'm gonna have people, you know, commenting and hating, hey, it's not a paint booth, yada, 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 yada. And you know what? It's what I got. It works. One day I'll have a paint booth. Today it's not in the checkbook. Got to work on that floor and that insulation in the shop first. That is our primary key. So this paint booth for now, it works really well. I've got the exhaust here, a couple of old furnace fans on a switch, and just woof, right out the garage. Wet the floor down. Yep, it's not a down draft, it's not a cross draft. Air comes in the other side over there in those windows. You know, it works. I don't have a, you know, $8,000 screw or whatever air compressor, but the free one from my dad works just great, and thankful to have that. So we're gonna go ahead and let this dry. I'm gonna throw another coat of primer on these parts, and probably should look at getting up to the O'Reilly store to pick up the color. So we'll do that here in the next couple of days, and maybe I'll grab some more lights because it's kind of dark in that area when I was spraying back this direction. So got a few more lights someplace. Big question is, where's the actual Fiesta itself? That is still down in the shop. After I get all these parts painted, I'm gonna bring that up here to the garage, let it warm up, get that masked off, and shoot that. That's probably gonna be tomorrow for me, and a few minutes for you. But that's the goal. I didn't want to get too much stuff in the garage here in case something came up. I had to stop. But we'll go ahead and just work away, chip away at it, and eventually it'll all get done. Not in a hurry. So it's just nice that the weather is cooperating a little bit, so I'm not pulling in -0 or below zero air from the outside. That certainly helps. So about nice comfy 75 degrees in here right now. And yeah, we'll just let this primer dry. We'll shoot some more on it and see where we're at. I'm guessing I'll have a few spots on the bumpers that I want to probably glaze over real quick. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and seal everything so we can go ahead and get our base coat down. We are going to do 2K, so base and clear. Why? Because I am. That's what was on the car, so I'm trying to match it back as close as possible. Then hopefully we'll be able to get it reassembled and down the road to somebody else. Well, everybody, it's next day for me, and as I thought that might happen last night, I ran out of my activator here. So I did go ahead and place a call to O'Reilly's about 5:45 last night, And the new quart should arrive today in probably an hour, but it's about 2 o'clock for me right now, which will put me back here about 3:30, quarter to 4 by the time I got into doing anything. And I don't know if that's gonna leave me enough time to do any more painting today, or priming for that matter. But what I have done is gone through last night and done a lot of block sanding, most of it actually, except for a little bit on the rear bumper. And it has turned out very nice. And this is just smooth like butter. There are even some of the scuffs and scrapes from the bumper that when I got it, that I was able to knock down and just really clean up. So I did go through down to the red in a few spots. So I am gonna shoot another coat of primer on this and then hit it with the sealer. And when you're going through and blocking, at least with this Nason primer, there's 2 different options you can do. One is use a guide coat, or 2, just sanding here. Once you go through and you can see this area hasn't been sanded, but this area has, and you can kind of see the difference. You've got your darker gray and lighter gray, and the lighter gray is where you've sanded. So that does help out to help see where you've been. If you've got any low spots still, like in here, I've got a little bit left to sand. But if you go over, take a look at the Challenger quick. I did put a guide coat on here, and you can see definitely is a darker color gray. And you can also more distinctly tell where you've sanded and where you haven't. So of course down here I've gone through, done a lot more blocking, ran through the metal just on the edges here, unfortunately. So I am gonna shoot another coat of primer before I seal it. But again, the guide coat just sort of helps you see where you are a little bit low and where you've got to sand down to get everything the same uniform color. And that is kind of what priming does. It gives you the ability to build up some paint on there, or primer, and then knock down until everything is a smooth finish, which is going to give you a great base to lay down your color, or base and clear if you're doing two-stage. So for me, I've got to run up to the parts store, grab that other activator and come back, but I don't think I'm going to get any more painting done today. So we're going to wrap up this segment, which is going to leave us to 2 more segments. We're going to have one shooting, I guess, a quick intro, hit the primer on that quarter panel of the Fiesta, and then wrap that up with the paint and clear. And then the last segment is going to be reassembly of everything, and then go ahead and detail and buff out those panels that I have painted, the fender and the 2 bumpers. So then everything else gets a good cleaning too. I'll probably wash and wax the car before I put these new panels on, new pieces on, just so that when I get them on, I can just buff it and be done with it and not have to worry about painting and waxing, or washing and waxing mistakenly the new paint. So that's my game plan for that. Yeah, we're getting close to setting this one down the road and bringing in something new. I know I've had a poll out on the YouTubes for what project next to bring in, and unfortunately it's become an Audi pickup, which isn't really a thing. So maybe somebody else will vote and we'll get a SUV, probably find like a, I don't know, Q5, Q7, something like that. Or, you know, I've had my eye on a Cayenne. Why? Because I kind of want one. I don't know why. They just seem neat, even if just to have for a few months and then send down the road to somebody else to be their problem. But that's to be seen down the future. We'll see what happens there. Again, like, share, subscribe, do your thing. We're over on Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, TikTok, all the places. And Patreon, yeah, because we're still trying to get some insulation and flooring in our shop. Because as you see, trying to work up here amidst our daily drivers is troublesome and very time consuming and time sensitive. I can't just walk away from something. Anyways, I'll quit rambling on. Hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.